Hi there and welcome to Net3 Technology. In today's video, lead cloud engineer Devin Stevens will be walking you through some simple steps for your Acronis onboarding. Devin will show you how to activate your account, how to add your first agent, how to apply your first backup plan, protecting Active Directory, installing the Acronis backup appliance for VMware, setting the DRS options for the virtual appliance, configuring the virtual appliance, and finally, working with your VMs. We've given you approximate points in the video if you'd like to skip around, but we first recommend watching the video as a whole from start to finish. Thanks in advance for watching, and we hope you find this information helpful.
Hello everyone and welcome to Net3. Today we're going to be kind of going through how to build up your Acronis backup environment from day one. So basically new tenant starting out, all of the things that you need to know to be able to come in and get your environment set up and backing up quickly and efficiently with Acronis. So the first thing that happens whenever you onboard with Net3 is we'll provision the environment. And when we provision that, it actually sends you an email. We utilize your email address to do this. So we'll come in and we'll actually send you an email that looks a little bit like this. So this is an account activation email. So it'll just kind of say, hey, look, this is your login. Most cases, you're going to see your email address sitting here. But in my case, I have this username here. So we're going to go ahead and activate the account. That's step number one. So if we click activate account, it's going to bring us in to set the password for this guy. So I'm going to go ahead and set this password. Okay. And we'll click next. Once we've set that password, it's going to go ahead and ask you to review and accept the end user license agreement and the privacy statement. This just tells you what we do with your data. The licensing agreement attached here. I've already read these guys. You can click on these buttons here, these links to read those if you haven't read them. But I've read those guys, so I'm going to go ahead and accept those. And once we do that, it actually puts us directly into the environment. So the first thing that pops up is, hey, what do you want to protect? What do you want to add to what kind of backup do you want to do? So we've got files or entire machine here, Office 365, and mobile devices. Now, if we click Show All Options, this is going to bring up another section which allows us to determine what kind of agent we want to install initially. But in this case, I'm good. I want to back up an entire machine. So the first thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to click right here, and it's going to ask me, are you wanting to do an agent for Windows or an agent for Mac? Now this agent for Windows is server and workstation, doesn't matter, can be installed on either one. Agent for Mac, of course, is for Mac workstations. So in our case, we're going to do agent for Windows, and it's going to go ahead and pop up here and give us a download. So we'll go ahead and save that. So, and then it gives us some instructions over here. So it tells us, hey, look, you're downloading now. Step number 2, you're going to run this installer on the Windows machine that you want to protect. Step number 3, we're going to enable a protection plan on it. And we'll go through all of those steps and show you how to do that. So this guy is downloaded. So I'm going to go ahead and show in a folder here. And I'm going to copy that guy. And this is the server that we're going to be protecting today. Go ahead and log in. You can do this. You can transfer this as any way that you need to. But basically what we want to do is we want to get this agent actually transferred over here. I've got an old one sitting there. We'll just get rid of that guy. So I'm just going to copy that. And we're going to paste right to this machine's desktop. Okay. Once it's there, we're going to go ahead and run this guy. Run it as administrator, as always. This machine that we're working on today, this is a domain controller that's sitting in my lab. So it's going to ask us for a couple of different things as we go through here. So we're going to go ahead and say we want to go ahead and install. And it's going to ask us for a username. Because this is a domain controller, we can't really create users for Acronis to use. So it needs to have a service account that's applied to it. So typically this is something that you're going to be asked to build for us in onboarding. as we go through. But if you are just doing this for the first time, this can be any account as long as it has administrative privileges within the domain. So in my case, I already have one sitting out here. So I'm going to go ahead and log on with this guy. Done. Just a quick note while we're installing, there is also a really great tool that we provide in order to test whether your environment is ready for connectivity to the cloud and to backup. It's called the Acronis Cloud Checker. Basically, you can ask us for this link to this, or we can provide it in the notes of this video as well. And it's really simple to use. So I'm going to run this directly from my desktop here. This is going to basically go out and access all of the different IP addresses that are needed to communicate with your backup agent that you're installing, and it's going to test the ports. So basically what we're doing here is we're verifying that your firewalls are set up correctly so that we can access the backup service, and everything's going to flow smoothly. So this will run. As it runs, it actually generates this really cool little report out here, so you can actually have this available for your onboarding engineer if you want to, or if we're troubleshooting something with you and we ask you to run this, you can just send this report directly to us. So pretty cool little tool right there. All right, we're almost done. During today's demo and training here, we're going to do this agent install like we're doing here. This is, like I said, mostly going to be for your physical workstations or VMs that you want to protect with protection plans such as, ransomware protection and things like that. For virtual machine backup, there's a whole different way that we're going to do an install, and we're going to do that today as well. And that's a virtual appliance install, and you'll get to see that in its entirety. All right. You guys can see this cloud connection verifier really goes through and does a lot. There are a lot of ports. There are a lot of IP addresses that need to be tested. So this kind of makes it really nice um, to have this all automated for you. Okay. So once the installation is done, you'll get a little setup like this. So it's almost done. First thing we need to do is register the machine. You've got two options here. So if you click register the machine, basically this is going to open up a website on this server and allow you to log in to Acronis to register the machine. We're already logged in back here in the background. So I'm actually just going to click this link that says show registration info, and it's going to give me a registration code. Notice this expires in an hour, so if this isn't done now, you'll have to regenerate. But we're going to copy this registration code, and then I'm going to come back into my Cyber Protect console, and I'm actually going to go to my Devices tab and click the Add button. And then very bottom of this thing, you'll see a registration via code. This is where we're going to put that code in. So we'll go ahead and click there, put that code in, and we're going to check that code. It's going to tell us what the actual machine name is that we're registering here. So it's checked that. This is the machine name, so we're going to go ahead and confirm that registration, and Acronis will proceed to bring this into the environment and get it installed. And you should see a success message here in the cloud, as well as on your actual machine. So when you close that, you should see the installation was successful, and that it'll appear in the web console shortly. All right, so we're good to go. Right now, we have the machine here. We do not have a protection plan applied here. So we're going to go ahead and go back into our environment. We'll click OK. And here's our VM out here ready to go. So um, real quick, as we go through this, this is our first agent. Um, the first login to the environment has been done, so this is the first time we've logged in. There are a couple of new things with Acronis that are really important to remember. The first one is underneath settings here, we actually have a new menu setting here for system settings. What this does, it allows you to set universal settings across your backup plans. So we're going to go ahead and go through this, and we're going to apply these settings to every backup plan that we create from now on. First and most essentially is our alerts. So we want to get alerts if we don't have successful backups. Now, this is not for failures of backup. This is, if I have a virtual machine that's sitting out here that for some reason or another is not running its backup plan. It's not necessarily a failure, it's just not running. I want to get an alert that that machine is not protected and is not okay. So I'm going to go ahead and set this for 2 days. That gives me plenty of time, to correct a mistake, but at the same time, get a good alert on this guy. Compression level, backup validation. You can really change any of the features for Acronis and the backup options for Acronis in this right here. The main ones that we are worried about today are, number one, my performance and backup window. So this machine, during its backup, I can apply a performance window that says things like, from 8 a.m. until 6 p.m. Monday through Friday, I want to run with a low CPU priority. And my bandwidth output speed, I only want to allow that to be 25% of my available bandwidth. The rest of the time, I can run with a high priority on my CPU. This allows the machine to go ahead and get its backup done during off hours, but during my office hours, I'm not really affecting my machine. Now, this is a lab, so I don't really mind if there's a little bit of CPU utilization and bandwidth utilization. So we're going to go ahead and set this back up to a normal CPU priority and an output speed of 90%. And I'm going to go ahead and save that. Any pre and post commands, the way I'm going to schedule my machines, all of that can be specified directly here in these backup settings. All right, so I'm going to go back up to my devices here, and we're going to apply our first protection plan. So this is the machine. This kind of shows some basic information about it. Over here on the right, in the new version 9.0 of Acronis, we've got a couple of different things now. So this is Cyber Protect. You might not have a couple of these options. So Cyber Protect is a more advanced version of Cyber Cloud Backup. It enables you a couple of different options that aren't on your Cyber Cloud backup, such as connecting directly to the machines via HTML5 or an RDP client, as well as doing some malware and ransomware recovery. We're going to focus today on backup alone, and those feature sets for backup are no different from your Cyber Cloud backup. So we're going to go ahead and click this Protect tab. And notice our first thing here is our backup. So we're going to go ahead and give this protection plan a name. You want to keep these somewhat generic. So these are policies, basically. These plans can be applied across VMs. So we want to keep this somewhat generic. So we're just going to call this VM backup. Actually, no, let's call this agent backup because we got an agent installed. Let's go ahead and click OK. We got our renamed guy there. We're going to back up the entire machine today. If you just want to do disks and volumes, files or folders or system state, you can, but I want the entire machine backed up. Continuous data protection is a new feature that's out there. This is basically for workstation and laptop backup. It enables continuous data protection of things like Adobe Acrobat, Distiller, Excel, different kind of Office documents, things like that, where they're continuously being backed up. I don't necessarily need that today, so I'm actually going to turn this off. I need this to be just a regular backup on my server, so I'm going to go ahead and turn that guy off. Then we choose where we want to back up. In our case, we can go directly to cloud storage. So that just puts us directly into cloud. We don't have to have any kind of on-premise storage there. I personally prefer to have an on-premise storage location. Just makes my restores faster. It gives me, the added benefit of having two copies of my backup. So I've got an on-prem backup as well as my cloud backup. This gives me a little bit of safety. So I'm going to add a location, and I'm going to add a network folder location. I have a QNAP NAS sitting out here in my lab that we're going to connect to. So if I put the IP address of that guy, just like I was browsing to him in File Explorer, this is going to go ahead and open this up, and it's going to show us the shares as soon as we put in a password. All right, so it's enumerated out my shares here. I already have a backup folder that's created, so we're going to reuse that, and I'm going to go ahead and add. All right, so there's my on-prem. Now I need to set a schedule. So there are a lot of scheduling options with Acronis. The first thing that we need to set is our backup schema. 9 times out of 10, you're not going to want to change this. Always incremental single file is our default option, and it's the most efficient backup method. If you have a reason that you need to change this, like always full or do grandfather, father, son, maybe there's some kind of regulatory reason, you can do that. Just keep in mind it's not as efficient and it's not as capable of compression. So you're going to get larger file sizes, you're going to get more cloud storage used, and they're just going to be a little bit less efficient backup. So I'm going to go ahead and stick with always incremental. I'm going to schedule by time. You can schedule by all kinds of things. So a lot of this is basically about end user backup, so workstations and laptops kind of thing. I don't care about any of that. I'm backing up servers today, so I'm going to schedule by time. But if I wanted to, I could have it back up when users log on, back up when users log off, that kind of thing. Just depends upon what your needs are at the moment. So we're going to schedule by time today. This is a domain controller, so I really don't need any more than a daily backup on this guy. If I wanted to, I could back him up, every 10 minutes. So I can actually come in and set this to minutes. Say I want it to run every 10. Say I want to run Saturday through Sunday and set a time frame that I want to run this frequent backup on. So this gives you some option of doing some backups during the day that are more frequent than your backups at night, so on and so forth. But in this case, I don't really need that. I'm going to go ahead and set a daily backup on them. I'm going to run every day. And I want them to start in the evening when my users have all gone home for the day. So we'll start at 6 p.m. There are some options here, once again, around workstation backups. So making sure the users are not affected very much. So whether they're idle, whether the machines will run on, though the backups will run on battery, whether they run on metered connections like 4G, you can set all this here. We don't need any of that. This is a permanently production machine, so we'll go ahead and click done. All right, so we pretty much have a backup created here, but there are some additional options that we need to go ahead and set up. So the number one thing that we need to do always on our backups is we need to set up encryption. So all of the data with Acronis is encrypted in transit. It's AES 256 encrypted from the time that the agent picks up the material and the backup data until it hits storage. What we want to do is we want to enable encryption at rest. All right, so we'll go ahead and enable encryption. We're going to create a passphrase here. Okay, we'll set our encryption algorithm. And boom, we've encrypted this at rest. This is a domain controller, like we discussed before. So I do need to enable an application backup on this guy. So we'll go ahead and click there, and we're going to choose Microsoft Active Directory as the application that is being backed up here. Now, this is a plan level setting. So if you are applying this to a lot of generic VMs that are out there, that some don't have AD, some don't have Exchange, things like that, don't go clicking these and turning these on. You really want to have a separate backup plan for your Active Directory, a separate backup plan for all your SQL servers, and a separate backup plan for Exchange. The reason being, Acronis will throw up an error. It will say, "Hey, there's no AD on this box if you apply this plan to it," that kind of thing. So we're going to go ahead and turn it on for this guy, and click OK. And it gives me a warning. Hey, you do not have the agent for Active Directory installed. Um, well, that's a problem, right? So we're going to go ahead and click connect. It checks again. Same thing. Agent for Active Directory is not installed. That's fine. What we want to do is we'll go back and we'll install this agent for Active Directory on here. All right. Backup options are already set. So if we go ahead and change, we've got all these backup options that we went ahead and set at the beginning for our entire system. Notice they've carried over. So here's my successful backup plans. And if I look at my performance and backup window, this is already set for me. So I'm good to go there. All right, so this is a good on-prem backup. So if we go ahead and create this, this would turn on and do everything we need to do. But we want to go ahead and get it to cloud. So we're going to click Add Location here. It's defaulted out to cloud storage, which is what we want it to do. You can set another location. So if you wanted to add a location and have this be another QNAP NAS or have it to be a local file share, something like that, you could do that as well. But we're going to get it to cloud. We want that backup to be air gapped out of our facility into cloud, where it's nice and safe and we can recover from it if we need to, and if we lose our facility. Our retention plan. Now, notice my retention plan is 6 months, 4 weeks, and 7 dailies on-prem. It's copied that retention plan. We're going to go ahead and change this. I don't really need this much backup in cloud. I really just need about 30 days of backup. So I'm going to go by number of backups, and I'm going to say I want to keep 30 backups out here in cloud. That gives me about 30 dailies that I can work with. Like I said before, we're going to turn off these other options here that might not be available to you that aren't specifically related to backup. And we're good to go. So at this point, we can apply this backup plan. It's going to go ahead and pop up and tell us to remember to create bootable media. That's going to help you recover this machine if it won't boot. So this is basically a boot environment. You put this as a USB or an ISO image into the machine. You boot off of that ISO image, and this allows you to recover your backups directly to the machine. We're not going to do that today. We need to go ahead and get this Active Directory agent installed. So if we go ahead and click Add right here and scroll down, we'll come to our applications. This is our Microsoft Active Directory agent right here, so we're going to go ahead and save that. And I'm going to copy this guy. It's going to make me log into this machine again. All right. So I'm going to run this as an administrator. And it's kind of go through the same process that we went through before when we were installing the agent, the initial agent. The only difference is it's going to upgrade the agent that it currently exists there and just add feature sets to them. Click install. Notice there are a couple of links down here for unattended installation and things like that. We'll go into that in another segment. All right. While that's installing, let's go ahead and talk about the virtual OVF, the virtual appliance. So this type of agent that we've just installed here is a virtual machine that has an agent installed on it. So this is, like I said before, for a couple of advanced feature sets. So I typically recommend running a VM with an agent installed on it in the cases of things like file servers that you need to protect from ransomware and things like that. Those are parts of Acronis that we really haven't gone over in today's session, but there are definitely use cases for doing this. You would also have this done for a physical machine. You would install this agent on. But when it comes to virtual machines, most of the time what we're really looking for VMs is just a snapshot level VMware based backup. To do that, Acronis has a couple of ways we can do that. So I'm gonna try to be hypervisor agnostic here. So there's two major hypervisors that we run into. There are Hyper-V and VMware. We handle them a little bit differently in these cases. So my lab is VMware, so I'm going to be going through what's called an OVF install. The Hyper-V piece is almost a little bit simpler. So if you're protecting Hyper-V, you're going to be downloading an agent that is for Hyper-V and installing it on your host. So the same process that we just went through of installing that agent on that virtual machine, that's the same process you use for Hyper-V. Okay, so once it's installed on those hosts, that allows the Hyper-V agent to go out there and control the virtual environment, control the hypervisors. With ESXi, it's a little bit different. So when we click on ESXi here, we get two options. We can go ahead and install an agent on a Windows machine, and then put in credentials for vCenter and things like that. But they also supply a virtual appliance, and the virtual appliance, if you can, is really the way to go. What this guy is a small Linux machine that we're actually going to deploy into VMware vSphere. He'll have his own dedicated resources, things like that, and we're going to go ahead and click that button and save that. So this is now downloading that ESXi appliance. I might have to do it a couple times. It is stalled out on me today. Okay. Once you have the ESX appliance .zip out here, if you open it up, there's actually just a few files in there, and we're going to copy those out. And I'm actually going to just put those files directly into my Acronis folder. So there's a couple of things to look at here. So the first are the instructions for deploying this appliance are here in their entirety. So there is a PDF included that tells you exactly how to do everything that you're about to see. The other pieces of this puzzle are the actual OVF and the two disks that go with it. These are what we're going to import into vCenter. Okay, so all three of these are needed. And what we're going to do, we're going to go ahead and log into our vCenter. All right. Then I'm going to right click onto my data center. So this is my lab data center. And when I right click, I'm going to get this option to deploy OVF template. So we're going to go ahead and click there. And we're going to choose a local file to deploy. Go ahead and click choose files there. Then we're going to choose that OVF and the two disks. So you have to have all three chosen and selected here. And click open. Click next. We're going to give it a name. We want it to be a name that we can, easily recognize. So we'll just Acronis ESX app. You can place it within your environment here if you'd like to. You can select a compute resource that you want it to run on. In my case, I need it to run in the system folder. This is my resource group. You can not select anything, have it go in lab, go onto a particular host, however you want to deploy. All right, so it's gone ahead and validated everything. We're going to select the storage we want it to deploy to. So in my case, this is my production storage. I don't want to deploy it to like local storage or anything like that. We want to go ahead and go to your production. Then we're going to select the network that it's going to live on. So I'm going to have it live on this VM network. You want this machine to be able to have access to vCenter as well as the hosts. So it doesn't really necessarily matter if it has access to the VMs out there, but it does need to have access to vCenter. Let's go ahead and click next and finish. And vSphere will start deploying this guy. So once he's deployed, we'll come back to him and we'll look at configuring that OVF. In the meantime, let's go check on our domain controller here. All right, so our installation was successful. So this has added the Active Directory piece to this machine. So we'll go ahead and close that. And if we come back into our Cyber Protection console and into our Protect, this guy's ready to go. So we can go ahead and back him up. To do that, in the new version 9.0, it's a little bit different. Usually we have a big run now button down here, but we just got a little star right there. You can expand this and look at the settings still if you want to and get that run now button, but we have this nice little play button right here that we can do. So we're going to go ahead and kick off his backup and let him run. Let's check to see whether we've got our guy here. Yep. I believe we do. There's our new guy. This is an old one that I have out here, so I'm actually going to get rid of him. To get rid of one of these guys, you just power it off. Delete them from disk. These guys are stateless, so you don't have to do a lot of configuration on them. While we're waiting on the OVF deployment to be completed, we're actually going to add in something that's really, really important. One of the things that you do not want to happen to this virtual appliance while you're doing a backup is have it start to vMotion. Or in Hyper-V world, that would be like a quick migration. We want to go ahead and disable DRS on this guy. So in order to do that, we're going to go ahead and click on our lab. When we're in our lab, on the Configure tab, now this is your data center, so it should be named something else for you, but we're going to go ahead and click Configure tab, and then there is a little place here called VM Overrides. Notice I already have one built out for my old ESX appliance. We're going to add one for the new one. What we're basically doing here, guys, is we're saying I do not want any kind of vMotion or automatic demotion on this guy. All right, so DRS automation level, I'm going to set him to disabled. So at this point, he just lives where he lives. He doesn't move. He will not move automatically. If you put something in a maintenance mode, you're going to have to power him off, that kind of thing. But what it does is it tells the machine, hey, don't vMotion during a backup, because this guy's CPU is going to spike, his memory is going to spike, and if VMware sees that and says, "Oh, well, I've got more resources on these hosts," it's going to try to vMotion this machine off of this host, and that's going to interrupt your backup. No matter how quick that vMotion is, you lose a couple of pings there when you do a vMotion. So we don't want that to happen. So we're going to go ahead and put in a host override, keep him where he's at. All right, our OVF is done, so we can see that down there. So we're going to go ahead and power him on. Launch this web console here. It's going to run a quick check of the file system, just to make sure it's got everything it needs to have. All right, so the first thing that this machine is going to do when it starts is it's going to start up its network connection. Now we've got it on the right network, but we haven't configured anything as far as this machine. Now, he will go ahead and grab DHCP. For my environment, that's just fine. Okay, I'm okay with DHCP leases being held for this machine. If, however, you do not have DHCP on your network, or you want to statically assign the IP of this guy, you can. So you can just change right here, uncheck this auto configuration and change your IP address, and you'll be good to go. In my case, I'm going to keep auto configuration on. I'd like to keep DHCP. The other things that we need to change real quick, we need to go ahead and change the name of this guy. So right now, the virtual machine itself, even though it's named in vCenter, it's not named on the virtual machine. So we're going to go ahead and change this, and we're going to name it the same thing that we have it named in vCenter. Click OK. And I have not specified a time zone. Now, I am UTC -5. So I'm going to pass it up there. We are Eastern time. Click OK. All right, I'm good to go as far as time. So there's two more things that the ESX appliance needs to be able to work. Number one is we need to connect this into our Acronis cloud. Okay, so if we see right here under management server, we're going to go ahead and click change here. We're not using a local management server, we're using a cloud one, and it automatically fills that out for us when we get in there. Then, of course, we need to go ahead and put in our username. So our username is, of course, this guy right here that we got earlier. So we'll go ahead and put that in. And then our password. This is the one that we set in Acronis just a few minutes ago for that guy. So once we click OK, it goes ahead and registers him out there. Now, unlike the actual VM agents and things like that, we don't have to specify that we're registering him in the other portal. Since we provided that username and password, it's just going to go right through and do what it needs to do. So we got our management server set up. So now we need to specify our ESXi server. Now, this little appliance can be deployed one of two ways. You can deploy it so that it points at vCenter and handles all of the backup for all of your hosts. So it's just basically a single point that handles all that. Or you can actually deploy multiple appliances. So you can have an appliance for each host that sits out there and manages backup for all the machines that are on those hosts. In our case today, we're going to point it at vCenter. 18.2.110, so I'm going to give it the IP address, and then I'm going to give it credentials for my vSphere environment. I'll go ahead and use this handy check connection here, make sure that it can connect to vCenter okay, and it can. And then I'm going to click OK. And that's it. That's all the configuration we need to do here. So if we come back out and go to our cyber protection console, here's our Acronis ESX app that's already showed up. This can take a little bit to basically go through the vCenter environment and populate all of the virtual machines that are out there. But in the background, that's exactly what it's doing. It's going through, checking to see what virtual machines are there, what it needs to protect, what it can't protect, that kind of thing. Give it a refresh, see if it's already populated. Okay, so it has ran through and populated our virtual machines. So if we come through here, these are all virtual machines. Notice the icons are different from my Acronis ESX app and my other guy. These are virtual machines that are actually out here in my environment running. So this is a VM. If we go ahead and click on Protect here, notice that we have our agent backup plan that's here. We do not want to use this plan. We're going to go ahead and create another plan just for my VMs. I'm going to kind of go fast through this one. It's all the same stuff that we did before. We call it VM backup. We're going to do the entire machine. We're going to choose our storage. We're going to set our schedule. Maybe about 6:30. Then we're going to set our retention. I don't need quite as much data on this guy, so we'll just keep one monthly. Set up our encryption. We don't have any application backup on this guy, so none there. We're going to add our location of cloud. And I don't need quite as much data, like I said before, so we're just going to keep 10 backups of these. And we are good to go. So I'm going to go ahead and click Create. Notice I get a good green check mark over here. That means this guy is protected and is going to be good to go. The backup is scheduled for him. If I've got other virtual machines in here that I need to back up the same way, I can do that. I can actually choose multiples, choose Protect, and apply this VM backup plan to all 3 of these. So it's just that easy. So now if I come back through, these guys should go green. I have a backup scheduled on them. So we are ready to go in the environment.
Thank you for watching, and we hope you found this information useful. If you have any questions or need assistance, please open a support ticket by calling our toll-free number at 888-499-0862 or email us at support@n3t.com. We look forward to speaking with you, and until next time, have a great day.